So Google have recently announced that they're now Kotlin First when it comes to Android app development. So what does Kotlin First mean? But more importantly, perhaps, how does this affect you as a developer? Let's talk about that in today's video. This video is brought to you by the Learn Programming Academy's Android Kotlin Masterclass. With a massive 48 hours of training, this course doesn't just show how to write Android applications, it explains everything in detail and even includes a Kotlin language tutorial. Grab a massive discount and instant access by visiting lpa.dev/YouTubeAndroid or by clicking on the link in the description of this video. So welcome back, my name is Tim Buchalka with another programming tip of the day, and we're talking about this Kotlin First initiative that Google are now talking about and recommending for Android app development. So getting a bit of context, firstly, Google and JetBrains is the company that actually created the Kotlin language initially. They've now formed a foundation, a Kotlin Foundation, and the purpose of that foundation is to protect, to promote, and to advance the Kotlin programming language. So I think that's a big clue there as to the intention of Google and also JetBrains. Now, Kotlin itself is an open source language being developed on GitHub. Now that's fantastic because that means that anyone can contribute to the language, and that's unlike a lot of other programming languages which are closed sourced, and meaning that you can't commit to it or add functionality yourself to it. So one of the foundation's biggest tasks is to ensure that new features that are being created and contributed by developers don't actually break the overall design goals of Kotlin. So in other words, there's someone driving that process. That's a good thing as well because it makes sure that Kotlin advances in the right direction. Now, one big advantage of Kotlin to look at is that there's no licensing problems with it, unlike potentially the licensing problems that exist with using Java on the Android platform. Now right now there isn't a problem, but you may be aware that Oracle, the creators of Java, and Google have been in court multiple times over Google's use of Java in the Android platform. So basically you're doing away with any issues relating to that if you move over to Kotlin. Now at the recent Google I/O conference, and that was in this month when I'm recording this video, May 2019, Google announced that from their statistics of the developers who are using their Android Studio product, 50% now of these developers, these pro Android developers, are already using Kotlin. So again, that's a big thing. You can see that Kotlin, only released 2 years ago, has already hit 50%. And that's basically pretty major in my opinion. And it's just going to go up and up from here. Now they also mentioned, which I found was pretty interesting, that Kotlin itself is the fastest growing language on GitHub. Now, that's 2 more big reasons there, I think, to be using Kotlin. Now, getting back to Kotlin First, though, which I mentioned at the start of the video. So what does that actually mean? And, well, at the same conference, the Google I/O conference, Google announced that Android is Kotlin First. Now, by that, Google are actually now making more stuff, if you will, available for Kotlin developers first before other languages. And that's certainly a departure from previous years where if they introduced a new API or some new functionality, it would generally be available for Java developers first. Well, they're switching that now and they're actually making it available for Kotlin developers first. And an example that they used there was Jetpack's APIs are being released for Kotlin developers first. Pretty big statement there. Now, again, this was a big change, as I mentioned, where previously they promoted and released stuff for Java first. Google also made a strong recommendation at that same conference. When you're creating a new Android project, starting a new project from scratch, they recommend you always do it in Kotlin. Again, that's a departure from previous years as well. Now, one of the reasons, or 3 good reasons that you can consider using Kotlin: less to type, less to test, and less to maintain. Now, if you add to that already 50% of the pro developers, according to their stats, are already using Kotlin, then I think the time is here for you right now to start adopting Kotlin for basically for your Android app development. Basically what I'm saying is that from my point of view, in my opinion, you should actually developing in Kotlin for any time you're actually developing Android apps moving forward. But with that said, now that brings up an interesting question. What's going to happen to people who are coding apps in Java, Android apps in Java now? Well, the good news is that Google also announced, though, that they will continue to support and invest in Java on the platform. So it's not as if all the code that you've written in Java, if you have, for Android apps is wasted, because let's face it, there's years and years and years of programming code that's been released in Java for Android apps. So it'd be crazy, I think, in my opinion, for Google to get rid of that and suddenly make that incompatible. So what I'm trying to say is all your code that you've written in Java for the Android app platform is still going to work, number one, but secondly, it's also going to be supported moving forward with Google as well. And you can also basically use C++ and Java is what they're saying anytime you want to create basically Android apps, which is pretty good. But again, their recommendation is to focus on Kotlin itself. So basically, you're still going to get support from those other programming languages, and that's still important as well. So bottom line here is that Kotlin First should be in your plans. So anytime you're creating new projects, certainly, my recommendation is, and I'll be doing this moving forward, I'll be using Kotlin as the first approach. So that's the first thing I'm going to do is look at basically coding in Kotlin, but any legacy applications will continue to be supported, and you can still use Java if you want to. Now, if you haven't already, though, check out the Google I/O conference videos. They're available on YouTube and the Google Developers channel, I should say. And there's a playlist there for the Google I/O conference. And I think there's about 178 videos there. Fantastic videos to watch on lots of different areas within Android app development. Certainly recommend that you subscribe to that channel and check that out. And basically, there's a link also in the description to that playlist, to the playlist for the Google I/O Developers Conference. So check those out. Specifically, the one that will be interest of you first, which I've quoted some points from, is the Google Developers playlist, the keynote, I should say. So it's about 30 or 45 minutes. So check out that keynote, the Developers keynote, for a lot more information about what's happened. But for me, this is quite big. Android are now pushing Kotlin, so I think you should be really looking to get skilled up as quickly as possible in Kotlin moving forward for Android app development. Alrighty, so I hope that helped. If you've got any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I'll get back to you. If you're ready to look at the next tip, click on up here and you can check that out. If you're interested in coding specific programming videos, click on the link in the bottom left hand corner. Consider subscribing by clicking on the link up here, and I'll see you soon.